up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. Well, last night I read a breaking news study about heart disease and what causes heart disease. And it is not what scientists had thought and doctors had thought was causing heart disease. Okay, originally they thought by taking in dietary fat that you would build up plaque in your arteries, having high cholesterol would cause this, and eventually this would lead to heart disease and heart attacks. Now, being the bro scientist that I am, and I had no, scientific explanation for it, but I had pieced together a long time ago that I felt that the plaque and arteries that were building up and the issue for the heart disease was not due to dietary fat intake, was not due to the fact that they had high cholesterol, blood cholesterol. It had something to do with carbohydrates. And my theory, my hypothesis, was in nature, we were meant to take in fats. The fat was meant to be moved around through the blood. The cholesterol was supposed to be there. However, in nature, we were never supposed to be able to eat the amount of carbohydrates that many of us eat now. So let's say, just for shits and giggles, back in the prehistoric times, whatever, there's no way those fucking cavemen were going to be eating 500 to 700 grams of carbohydrates a day, or all the refined sugars, all the other bullshit that we put in our bodies that's readily available now. However, the animal fats, they were. So our body is definitely built to handle the animal fats, saturated fats, and have the cholesterol through the blood, but it's not built for the carbohydrates. So I made that jump myself and said, okay, if we pull the carbs out and still eat animal fats and good fats, this should actually let the body be able to handle those fats the way that they're supposed to, not build up plaque. Now, I actually had my ex-girlfriend's aunt who had a huge triglyceride problem and cholesterol problem, and she was on multiple medications. And they came to me one day and said, this is my doctor gave me. He gave me this low-fat diet, blah, 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 blah. It's not working. And he says to exercise more. I can't do anymore. Like, this is just not working. What do I do? Do you have any idea what I should do? Any kind of advice for me? And I said, look, the doctor's going to, what I tell you the doctor's going to tell you is absolutely fucking crazy. He's going to tell you that, first of all, you're going to be dead if you listen to me, and that you need to stick to what you're doing and continue it, even though for 2 years it hasn't been working. You're on all kinds of medications for your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your lipids, triglycerides, everything else. But I would suggest a moderately high-fat diet, moderate protein, with little to no carbohydrates, and definitely no direct carbohydrate sources, such as oatmeal, brown rice, sugars, fruits, none of that shit. I would do that for about a month. When you go back and have your blood work, let them run the test and see what happens. So at this point, she had nothing to lose. She was getting so unhealthy, and the doctors couldn't help it. She said, well, fuck it. So she did a little research on her, on her own online, so that, people that had success by dropping out sugar, in general. So she went back, and the doctor said, they ran the blood work, and they were like, finally, the diet's working, your exercise is working, everything's starting to work, your triglycerides are down, there's less cholesterol. And she was like, fuck. She goes, I decided to do a high-fat diet, explained it to the doctor, and he was like, stop. You have to stop right now. What you're doing is going to kill you. And I'm not talking like 10 years, like in a year. And she's like, but I just did it in a month, and everything got better. So against doctor's orders, she continued with the diet. She got off a bunch of the medications she was on. It was actually a lot better not eating the carbs. Now, she missed the carbs. That's the problem. Cutting the carbs out of the diet, leaves a void in a lot of people's lives. Now, if she had been following what the doctor said, she would have got worse. Who knows? I mean, I haven't spoken to them in years, so I don't know whatever came of it. But now, lo and behold, this new study that came out, the reason for this video, doctors and scientists have found out that it actually is carbohydrate consumption that causes inflammation in the arteries. In the inflammation in the arteries is what causes the plaque buildup. It is not the dietary fat. It is not the cholesterol in the blood. It is, in fact, a carbohydrate, and they're saying specifically sugar sources and a lot of processed foods that our bodies are not meant to take in large amounts of this stuff that cause the inflammation in the arteries, that cause the plaque buildup, that cause the heart disease. So, although my hypothesis was not, 100%, because I wasn't thinking about processed foods, I was just thinking about carbs in general, and I definitely wasn't going specifically towards sugar. Not that I'm damning sugar, because I'm not. But the jump that I made bro science-wise years ago has finally caught up now with science. And this is part of the problem. Science is sometimes behind what the bros are doing, but then it proves later on that, hey, you know what? There was something valid to this. There was actually a point that it's true, it's right, it's correct. And now science is proving it, even though it had already worked. Although I didn't know every exact, mechanic of how it worked, I knew enough to know this causes this causes that, this is going to be the reaction, end, period, done. So now they're starting to say, you know what, you need to cut back on carbohydrates, you need to cut back on sugar, specifically if you have this issue, because inflammation in the body itself is bad. This is what causes a lot of issues, in general. Health issues are basically caused by a lot of inflammation in the body. And there's all different ways that people, reduce inflammation, and, take fish oils, do this, do that. I mean, your inflammation is your body's way of basically fighting back against something that's attacking it. So there's always going to be some kind of inflammation in your body in general, but there are different markers that you can have tested to find out how bad inflammation is, and whether or not you should pay attention to trying to reduce this inflammation. But if you're on a high sugar diet, if you're on a high carbohydrate diet, I just had someone mention this in one of my comment sections, like yesterday, the day before, and last night I read this study, and I had mentioned to him in the comment section, cut the carbohydrates out and go with the ketogenic diet. And he said, oh, I never thought about that, because that's what's causing the issue, not the fats. So be aware, science is catching up, doctors are catching up, and if you're on, some kind of restricted, low fat, no fat diet because of your cholesterol problems, you might want to look more into what the real problem is, and it's the carbohydrate consumption, because I guarantee you, if you looked at your carb and sugar consumption, it's too high, and that's the issue. biohazardtraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biohazardtraining.com is the blog, and we're the inflammation bicep, and we're out.